Hello and welcome to Season 3 of the ReFolkUs podcast, where we talk to artists and music industry workers about building sustainable, creative careers with a focus on folk. I'm your host, Rosalind Dennett. Hello and welcome to ReFolkUs. Today our guest is Kaeley Jade. Kaeley is an award-winning Métis and Settler singer-songwriter, actor, and multidisciplinary artist based in Edmonton, Alberta, blending lush imagery and hooky melodic lines to create her own brand of pop-forward indie folk music. Kaeley has performed at venues and festivals across Canada, including the Edmonton Folk Festival, JUNOfest, Folk Music Ontario, the Canmore Folk Festival, International Indigenous Music Summit, and Coldsnap. Kaeley moves between ballads and bops with ease, and she brings an electricity to the stage whether she's playing an intimate acoustic set or playing alongside her full 5-piece band. Her music has received radio play across the globe and has been reviewed by publications worldwide and has been featured in several film and television productions. Her vibrant debut full-length album, Turpentine, has earned her significant recognition in the Canadian music scene. She's a Canadian Folk Music Award winner and 3-time nominee, Western Canadian Music Award nominee, Summer Solstice Indigenous Music Award winner and 3-time nominee, SOCAN Indigenous Songwriter Awards finalist, and the 2023 Henry Armstrong Award Recipient. Hello, Kaeley. How are you doing?
Hey, I am good. How are you?
I am doing very well. You're calling us from the road, which we appreciate you taking some time out of your busy summer schedule to chat with us. How's it been going out there?
It's been really good so far. I feel like this is kind of the second monster summer tour that I've planned. So it's kind of nice to not be doing everything for the first time and just sort of figuring out what I need for my brain and my body on the road and kind of honoring those things a little bit more this time around. Also didn't mix up my ferry tickets from the departure and arrival destination this year. We've had 0 flat tires so far.
Are you knocking on wood right now?
I'm knocking on wood. So much wood, yeah. So yeah, it's been really good. It's been so fun.
You know, you live and you learn, it sounds like. So I want to dig into something you just talked about in terms of knowing yourself a little better on this tour and taking care of yourself. But let's back up just a moment before we get there to how you became drawn to this industry and music and your journey to this point.
Yeah, totally. I did my first musical when I was 8 years old. We just moved from Fort McMurray, and I was kind of getting more into the performing arts. So I played Gretel in Sound of Music in Sherwood Park at Festival Place, and that was kind of my jumping off point, I would say, into wanting to pursue a career in the arts. So I started performing music when I was 9, and I was kind of gigging all over Alberta at that point from a really young age. So I don't know, it really sparked my desire to want to continue to do this.
Hold on a second. So you were gigging at 9. So is this outside of the musical theater? Were you performing music, your own music, or?
Yeah, every kid starts writing their own music, but I didn't really start playing originals till I was probably in my early teens. But yeah, I was playing my Miley Cyrus songs, my Celine Dion songs with my backing tracks, but I was taking music lessons at the time. And they also sort of acted as a booking agency. So I did all sorts of random gigs. I played in malls a lot. I got to do a little showcase for the CCMAs, kind of in the host hotel when they were in Edmonton, the last time they were in Edmonton. But yeah, a bunch of things like that. I did Alberta Special Olympics. I did Alberta Summer Games, a bunch of different events. So all sorts of stuff. But
I think that's an unusual or maybe somewhat uncommon journey in that you started performing so young, professionally performing so young. Did your relationship to performing change when you started writing your own music? And how did you keep from burning out early because you started so early?
Yeah, I think for me, it was more of a hobby at that point. It was something that I loved to do, and it was so much fun. But I did take breaks. We kind of had some time off during Christmas and whatever. Whenever lessons were sort of on the off season, we also took breaks. So that kept it really, really fun for me. It was more of my extracurricular activity that I was doing rather than me thinking of it as a career at that point and a job. But yeah, it kind of allowed me to not have to get a little job when I was a teenager, because I was kind of playing for tips during the summers at campgrounds and doing all sorts of stuff like that. So I think that was really special. But yeah, I feel during my teen years, I got a lot more interested in drama. So I kind of not stopped singing, but I took a little step back and started pursuing more of theater, which was really cool too.
And When you started writing your own music, did you kind of put a band together? You're talking about using like backing tracks. Were you recording kind of your own music? Were you working with other musicians? How were you making that happen when you started writing?
When I started writing, I was playing solo for most of my journey, I would say. So I kind of picked up guitar when I was around 14, and piano I'd kind of been playing for a little bit longer. But mostly I play by ear, so that kind of shaped my journey a little bit too. But yeah, like I was writing music and just starting to dabble into the world of songwriting. Performed those ones less. Like I would say that I was still kind of doing the cover thing for a long time. And yeah, it wasn't really until I started to seriously consider recording an album, which was released in 2020, my first EP, that I started to work with other musicians. And yeah, we kind of started to get like a band together for my EP release party. I think like we had our first like full band show for the years ago single release party in January of 2020. So since then, it's been like, I was like, wow, this is so fun. It's so nice to have other musicians on stage to jam with and be able to just, I don't know, like, it's just, we're all having fun up there. And that's something that's really special to me. So it's been cool to kind of flip between more of an acoustic sound now and also have the full band sound as well.
Did your family play music, or were they like supportive of you getting into this industry at such a young age?
Yeah, they've always been really awesome. And I don't know, like we used to do like family karaoke and stuff when I was
Yes.
little. Like that was a really a big thing that we did for fun. And when I first started taking lessons, actually my mom and my sister started after I started. So we also got to perform, the three of us, kind of around as well. So that was really cool too. They neither of them really perform much anymore, but just to have that in my upbringing, I think was really unique and very special.
Yeah, family band. Nothing like it.
Yeah.
That's so
Yeah.
exciting. And then, so 2020, you released the EP. So in the last 4 years, you heard me read to you your own bio with like a whole lot of like accolades and award nominations, and garnered a lot of recognition and awards for your work in the grand scheme of things, I would say, in a pretty short amount of time. What's that been like? Has that been felt overwhelming? Have you felt pretty grounded in that part of the journey?
I have a really hard time with like accepting things as they come. I feel like I'm very much of a future thinker. So I've been really working on just not gratitude, because of course I'm extremely grateful for everything that's come my way, but just like, I don't know, like letting those things pass over me and really fill me and acknowledging them, I guess. So like I'm very hungry, so it's been that part has been really really cool. Yeah, I guess like the last few years too, like it's been interesting because of COVID and the pandemic. Releasing my EP kind of in the very start of that was very scary. And it was sort of this thing that I was just like, well, either I sit on it or I put it out anyway. And there was kind of a lot of learning that I got to do in a really short amount of time because everything moved online, which was kind of a blessing in a way for me, being from Edmonton, where there's still a really thriving music scene, but that's less the center of things. So I got to attend a lot of like conferences online. And I would say that that
Mm.
was really, really instrumental in helping me meet the people that I needed to meet and like learn really quickly about the industry from the more of the professional recording side, the industry side, than me just like, gigging with my guitar around Edmonton kind of the way that they wanted to. So yeah, I got to attend things like Breakout West and like the Folk Alliance that they had done online, and like
Mhm.
Australia's like Big Sound conference, like things like that. I got to do that from my home, which was like so awesome because you'd never get to do that in any other circumstance. So
There's like so much to complain about with the pandemic, but like the flip side is like how accessible all of a sudden everything became. And that's amazing that the timing of your release could, you could flip it and be like, oh, I didn't get to tour. I didn't get to, do the things that artists might normally plan. And it's kind of refreshing and neat to see the flip side of like the positive that you did get to actually have the experience of being out there, and I say in quotations, at these industry events, but being able to do it kind of like accessibly from your home, which is a neat experience.
no, I'm very grateful for that, and I know like for sure that was very instrumental in me being able to learn things and still move forward during those times.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about how then, like, kind of emerging from the pandemic and being able to perform again. You've said you've been spending some significant time on the road and touring. How was that kind of reemergence or emergence, really, I guess it would have been
Mhm.
for you?
Yeah, it's a lot. I feel like I have a really solid work ethic and that has gotten me so far in my life. But yeah, it's been a huge learning curve, and definitely trying to book my first couple of tours where like I was like, what am I doing? I have no idea what I'm supposed to do. Like, how do I reach out to people? But I've been really lucky to have mentors kind of along the way who I've been able to ask for help and just be like, hey, like, can I run this by you? Like, I have this like email sort of template that I'm thinking about using when I'm reaching out to venues, and like just being able to reach out to other people kind of in my vicinity that have done it before, that can kind of offer some guidance. And I'm like, hey, like, do you know, like in Jasper, for example, or like in Prince George or wherever, like I'm going, just be like, do you have any venues that you might recommend or avoid? Or just being able to ask questions has been so helpful. I feel like I haven't been 100% alone in that, just because I've been able to use my friends and colleagues as like sounding boards and I'll ask for help.
That's so integral to have that, like that mentorship that, certainly not everybody has. And when you do, it's like so important to have those kind of sounding boards, kind of no matter where you are in your professional career. You mentioned, music was kind of a hobby for you, and or maybe like kind of like a side hustle kind of thing. Now that you're doing it full time, do you have other hobbies and side hustles on the, what are you
Yeah.
doing outside of your kind of music career?
Yeah, I'm a big believer in finding other things to fill your cup. And even with my music career, like I've been very adamant in my creative journey to follow the path that really like feeds me and is nourishing for me. Right now, that's like 100% music. I'm all in, and it's been really exciting and challenging and hard, but in a good way to pursue this as hard as I have been. But I also am an actor on the side as well. Like I have my BFA in acting. So that's another huge love of my life that I still get to pursue. And these worlds get to come together in really cool ways sometimes as well. So like that's definitely another big facet of me and my artistry, is kind of like the other avenues of the arts that I can pursue and can continue to come back to when I'm feeling a little bit stuck perhaps in one. I can always move to another, which I think has been really awesome for me, and being able to survive burnout and avoid burnout. But on the side of that, like outside of the arts too, like I played sports like all through high school, and I still try and find a lot of time for moving my body. So whether that's like working out at the gym, or started playing soccer recently for the very first time in my life, and that was really scary, but it's been really fun too, just to get to, I don't know, like push myself in new ways that way, I think has been really awesome. But volleyball too, like volleyball's been a big love of my life as well for a very long time. So finding time to do that and still be in touch with different parts of myself, I think that's been really important for me so far. So just finding these little pieces of me along the way. And I don't know, you don't have to be one thing. So why not just like try everything? And that's what I think.
How about when you're touring? Because I imagine, well,
Mm.
actually, you can bring a volleyball or a soccer ball on tour, I guess, and why not? That would fit in the tour van. But is there anything that you do on the road to do that kind of like that kind of centering of yourself, or that kind of pursuits of other creative endeavors?
Totally. We brought both a volleyball and a soccer
Nice.
ball for our last BC leg, which we didn't get to use either of them. We did a wonderful hike out by Canmore, Howling Peak, which we've done before, me and my guitarist. We kind of had a morning off, so we are like, oh, like let's do this hike. Like it's a nice day out. We're gonna play in Revelstoke later, so we did not leave ourselves enough time. I have like decent time management, but like I gotta say I cut it pretty close sometimes. So we like climb to the top of this beautiful mountain, and then we look at our watches and we're like, we need to leave. We need to be down like
Roll
now.
down this mountain.
So we ran down Hauling, and like really, really fast, faster than I've ever ran down before. It was our personal best of doing that hike. And then we couldn't walk properly for like three days.
Yeah, that's tough on your knees,
Yeah,
running
yeah.
downhill.
My quads were never sorer than they have been. I was probably one of my like top 3 most sore times ever in my life, which is really fun. That was another lesson I learned on this tour, is don't do that before you have a big run of shows. So you're going to pay for it. So we didn't really get to use the volleyball or soccer ball this time around, but we have in the past. And sometimes too, like if we have some time, we'll try and like hit the gym or something. Just for me, like my breath work is really important for me to just be open and ready to sing. I'm a big believer in that. So trying to get prepared in the morning before a show is a big part of my daily ritual. And yeah, movement really helps with that.
What kind of breath work do you do? Do you have like a specific regimen or like people you would suggest like checking out for anybody that's listening that wants to look into something like that?
Yeah, totally. I've been working with David Wilson, based out of Edmonton, and he's kind of one of the voice teachers at MacEwan University for the musical theater program. So I learned of him through my partner, Gab, who is my guitarist and has done the MacEwan musical theater program. So I kind of learned about him through him, and he focuses a lot on, I guess, like yoga as a means of opening breath and getting connected to the voice, which is really similar to a lot of my own training that I had in my BFA degree for acting. Like a lot of what we did, my voice teacher he'd just gotten his like registered massage therapy diploma, so he was working a lot with us on release work. So my own practice, it's definitely like, how can I prepare my body for breath and for singing? And especially like I sleep like on my stomach, and I sleep crunched into a little ball, so I feel like every morning I have to like unravel myself and pry myself open and just be ready to breathe and to sing. So yeah, I would recommend checking out that. That's really cool. It's helped me a lot.
Hey friends, October 2nd to 6th, join us in celebrating the finest in folk music at the Folk Music Ontario Conference, where artists and industry professionals come together for unforgettable performances, workshops, and networking. Plus, don't miss the Ontario Folk Music Awards with special guest Tom Power, host Janice Jolie, and performances by Angelique Francis, Mimi Obansawin, Adrian Sutherland, Payadora Tango Ensemble, Jessica Pearson and the East Wind, and Sultans of String. Recognizing the best talent in our vibrant community, it's all happening soon. So register today, visit folkmusicontario.ca and enter the promo code REFOCUS20, REFOLKUS20 for 20% off registration and awards tickets to secure your spot. See you there. You mentioned that your partner plays guitar with you. What's that kind of like? What's the relationship like when you're on the road? You just mentioned going on a hike, which sounds lovely. Like, are you able to kind of prioritize the personal nature of the relationship while you kind of have that professional side of performing together?
We are such a good team, and I'm so grateful for him. Honestly, like I could go on forever. That having him is kind of like a happy accident that he ended up joining the band in the first place. But it's been such a blessing to have him with me. I feel like I'm definitely more of like a high-strung, tense energy person, and he's kind of the opposite. So he really brings a lot of levity to me and to how I'm feeling. So having him around is like been so awesome, and he's always so helpful and so willing to support me and all of the things that I want to do. And I feel like too, like he's able to trust in me and my organization to make sure that we're, in the right place at the right time and that we have all the gear we need. So I feel like, yeah, like we just work really well together, especially when we're on the road. It's kind of like a little fun vacation and the times when we're not playing. We try and make the most of our time that we're not performing and just chill and relax and hang out and do all the fun things that we would maybe get to do on vacation until it's like, oh, it's 3 p.m. Better start getting ready for the show, So it's been great.
Oh, that's so nice. And, you mentioned that he was in theater as well. And it's neat that you have both the theater and the music side in common. I wanted to talk about the times that theater experience and music for you has intersected, because you recently did a theater piece, Two-Headed, Half-Hearted, where you were able to kind of combine both of those talents that you have, both like musically and as an actor. Can you tell us a little bit about that piece and your involvement in it?
Yeah, so I think it was probably like early 2021. Trevor Schmidt, who is the artistic director of Northern Light Theater, kind of reached out to me on Instagram. He like DM'd me and he's like, hey, like I heard about you through someone, and can we go for coffee? I have this weird project I want to pitch to you. So we went for coffee, and he describes this musical that he wants to create as a prairie gothic song cycle of mythology and mermaids for conjoined twins. So, so I was like, whoa, that's a lot of interesting, cool themes, and I'm very, very interested about that. So I'm really glad that I hopped onto the project. I think it evolved into being one of the most like important things that I've done so far in my career. We got to explore like themes of like sisterhood and identity and family, which was all so incredible. But yeah, like I ended up writing the music for it. So it was my first time kind of really working on a musical on the creative side. Like I'd done obviously like lots of theater, coming from the acting side, and I did some devised work in my degree. And I had co-written like a little play in high school, but it was my first time composing music for theater. So it was very interesting for me to kind of receive the text and then think about like this world that we're living in the show, and figuring out how to bring that to life and make everything still be dynamic and interesting. So it was a huge challenge, and I was like super stressed for a little bit when the deadline's looming. I was like, oh, better get working. But it all came together in a really awesome way, and I feel like it was received really well by audiences. And I think that we were able to really craft a beautiful and honest relationship between two sisters at the end of the day.
Is that something you would do again, like writing for the theater?
I think so. Yeah, now that I've had a couple years to kind of to decompress, I think it's a really cool challenge, and it's a world that I still love to live in. And I have lots of friends who are really active in the theater community as well. So I would love to do that again.
Is that, in terms of like paths that musicians can take, or like different revenue streams, or if somebody was interested in getting into that maybe didn't start in the theater world, if somebody was interested in connecting to theater and being involved musically, how would you suggest somebody go about that?
Oh, yeah. There's lots of musicians who have kind of moved over to theater or kind of flip-flop between both worlds. But I think like definitely getting out there and watching musicals, getting out there and like watching theater and getting to know the industry a little bit, I think is definitely a really good first step if someone was hoping to kind of dive into that world. But yeah, just like seeing who in your community has done that, I think is really important too. Like for me in Edmonton, it's like there's lots of artists around, like Lindsay Walker and myself, and like a bunch of people. Hawksley Workman's musical just had premiered at the Citadel Theatre, which is kind of our big regional theater, 2 Christmases ago or so. So there's lots of people who've been doing it.
You called yourself like a future thinker earlier on, and I'm wondering if you can share with us a bit about what's in your future thinking right now. Like what's next for you? What are some of your goals for the year coming up?
Yeah, I'm gonna be jumping back in the studio this fall. I'm hoping to work towards another full length release, which is scary. It's always like so scary to be like, here's my children, here you go, let's bring them to life. So I'm a little daunted, and it's my first time recording outside of my hometown. So I think it'll be a really good learning experience for me. That's what it's all about, right? Challenging yourself. That'll be my fall. And then I'm kind of starting to shape up on some touring plans for next year, which is, third time the big tour charm. Let's go. And I'm kind of learning too, like there's a fine line when you're reaching out to venues. It's like you can't really be too far in advance, but you also can't be too late. So learning where that perfect, I don't know, time exists is what I'm kind of working on right now.
When you find out, please let us know.
Oh, I'll do I'll do my best. I'll show you all my spreadsheets.
Please. I'm sure that's something so many folks struggle with, because also everyone's different too. Everybody has their different seasons that they're booking in, and
totally. And I don't know. I feel like I don't know anything. Like I'm learning, but I still feel like I'm such a baby in so many ways, and I'm kind of getting the hang of when to apply for festivals and stuff. And I like to route my summer tours around festival season, like a lot of other artists, but. Definitely, yeah, there's so much that I don't know, and there's so much that I'm still learning. So I'm kind of taking it in little chunks and trying to be better than the last time.
Are you working with any team, or are you self-managed? Anyone helping you in your endeavors right now?
I have someone who's doing a little bit of radio tracking for me, and I had worked with a publicist on the release of my last album. But otherwise, it's just me. Like I don't know, it's me doing all the booking and the managing. So I think for me, it's really important to stay organized and stay on top of everything when you are representing yourself, because there's no real buffer between you and everyone you're talking to, which is also a little bit daunting. But for now, I think it's been the right choice for me. And getting to really learn what is behind all of these roles that we look up to and require in the industry. Yeah, I've been trying to figure out like how they do their jobs, and then maybe I can do their job like they do their jobs, and then when the time comes to build my team, I'll know who I want to work with and why I want to work with them.
That's a really, in my opinion, like such a wise way to look at it, especially sometimes artists without representation are so eager to like, have somebody on the team or like somebody else to like take on some of that work. And really like, until you've done it yourself, like how are you supposed to know what the job is that you're hiring someone to do. And,
Yeah.
like, I mean, there's some jobs that, like, I don't know, plumbing, I'm sure you can be like, yeah, you know what, this is beyond my expertise. But, when the product itself is you and your music, I just think that's such a refreshing thing to hear, that you're, committed to managing yourself and taking on that business side and being such the awesome entrepreneur that you are.
Thank you. Yeah, definitely. In this phase, like it feels right for me, I think. But future phase, of course, it would be nice to not alleviate some burden, but like it would be nice to be able to delegate tasks to people that I trust, and I guess like trust in their work, that they're going to be able to do an even better job than I can do myself. Like I'm looking forward to that, but it's a slow grind, as you know.
I'm wondering, like, as an artist entrepreneur, self-managed artist entrepreneur, if you have any tips or like words of advice or encouragement you would have for other self-managed artists.
Yeah, I think that knowledge is power. Keep your records. Like it's so important, and it'll help you so much later to do everything more efficiency. But if you just like keep track of who you're talking to, keep really solid records for yourself, like date everything. I have spreadsheets up the wazoo about everything, but later on, if I'm looking for information, I already have that information a lot of the time, because it's someone that I might have met before, or it's a venue that I reached out to before, and I can make a note like, hey, they don't book shows on Wednesdays, so don't reach out on Wednesdays. Like just a whole bunch of stuff like that. I think that staying organized and keeping all your knowledge around you, I think that that's a really good way to stay on top of everything, and helps with your own professionalism too. If you are able to express your needs and really eloquently, and being able to communicate with people effectively, I think like that really turns it around and looks good on you too. So there's really no downside. It's just the work of having to compile everything and to keep on top of all your record keeping.
Do you keep notes like every time you meet someone? Like if you have a meeting with somebody, or anytime that you kind of interact with somebody, do you keep like a little note?
Yeah, I do try to do that. And I was honestly like, conferences, I'm trying to get better with faces, but there's definitely people, like you see them around a few times and you're like, I've seen you. I don't know that I've met you, but I was like, what if I put a little picture of people in my, no, but I don't, that's probably like,
extra,
I don't
that's
know.
the extra
That's like,
math.
that's like insanity level. I don't think I would do that, but I'm like, that's like maybe a little creepy, but who knows?
Oh man, that's so smart though. If you get really into, as a person who is a bit of a conference junkie, I definitely wish at an earlier stage that I was more diligent about keeping those kinds of notes, because it's, you hear it all the time, and it's like, it's about relationships, and if you're in this industry, you end up, creating or sparking a lot of professional relationships, especially at like a big event, at a festival or at a conference. And it's so neat to be able to do that follow up with folks and say like, hey, it was great to meet you here. Remember when we talked about this? Or, it was nice to like meet you when we were, at this concert, that kind of thing. And it's always that little like extra personal touch.
Yeah, it's totally important, and that's something I'm trying to get better at, is the follow up. I think it's hard kind of trying to meet people authentically and like really be like, hey, I'm a human and you're a human, and then still trying to live in this. It's a weird world, this music industry, because you have music, which is arts, and industry, which is industry. So I guess trying to approach that while still being a human person, and making it in a way that you're like, maybe I'll just try and like make buddies along the way. Like it's that's kind of how I approach it. But
before we go, you mentioned heading into the studio. Is there anything else going on with you this fall that we can keep up with? And how do we find out more? How can we find you out there in the world or the World Wide Web?
Totally, yeah. I have a few things that I've been sitting on that I can't talk about quite yet. But if anyone wants to follow up on that and stay tuned, you can always check out my website, kaeleyjade.com. That's like Kaeley, Jade like the rock.com. So I made that a little jingle. Oh my God.
That was a great jingle.
Yay.
Jade like the rock.com.
Yeah. Well, honestly, like side note, the amount of people that spell my name wrong is like, I have an album on my phone of like all of the misspellings, because at this point it's just like funny. Like even like playing like big shows and it's like wrong name. I'm like, that's Kate. Take a picture of it, put it in my wallet
Great.
for later. But anyway, so my website, you can also check out my social media. at Kaeley Jade on Instagram and X, but I honestly don't use X very much. So Instagram or TikTok, Facebook, those are kind of the best places to stay tuned.
Right. Well, Kaeley, it's so great to get to catch up with you. And I wish you best of luck on this tour and on the road. And yeah, we can't wait to hear what's next.
Thanks so much for having me. It was so much fun.
That's all for this episode, friends. The ReFocus podcast is brought to you by Folk Music Ontario. Find out more by heading to folkmusicontario.org/refocus. That's ReFolkus. The podcast is produced by Kayla Nizon and Rosalind Dennett and mixed by Jordan Moore at the Pod Cabin. The opening theme is by King Cardiac and the artwork is by Jamie Carn. Please give us a download, a like, subscribe, rate, and review to let us know you're listening. Until next time, keep on folkin' in the free world.